Hey YouTube, this is the art of prepping. So you woke up this morning and realized that you were not prepared. What are you going to do? These are some steps you can do for the beginner, or maybe even the prepper that is just getting started. But for someone who just realized that preparation is a priority and that you do need to take steps and be proactive in this journey of preparation, and it doesn't come just in a nice little box with a little ribbon on it, then you'll figure this out pretty quickly that there are certain necessities that all humans need to survive. And the word survive gets a little overused in today's culture, but what I mean is to thrive and endure a hardship, to set yourself up to reduce the chances of yourself having to suffer or your family having to suffer. And as farther, and further you get into this type of a mindset, you'll realize too that short-term prepping is definitely important and should be a priority. But you'll see that more longer term and prepping for larger events are also necessary as well. Without further ado, we'll just start with that beginner prepper or that individual who woke up this morning and said, "Holy crap, I'm not prepared." And what are you going to do? So I would suggest to at least start out with a 72-hour kit. And I'm not talking about a bug-out bag, even though that's on the list. The 72-hour in-home kit, because this is going to be mainly and the first focus would be shelter in place in your own home. So what you'll have is 72 hours of everything you need. Now, I'll go through the main categories. There's more than this if you wanted to be comprehensive, but this is just for the very, very beginning starts of preparation. And so not to get overwhelmed, I just kind of wrote it out in 15 steps. Feel free to get a pen and paper out or just take mental notes, but what are the things that you need? And this list isn't going to cover everything that you may need. There may be medicines you have to have, or maybe a certain type of machine to help you breathe, or maybe there's other elements that you need to take care of to have a quality of life where you live. The first thing is going to be very obvious: food and water. More water than food. Being that you're going to already be in your home, you have the shelter pretty much fixed up. But having 3 days worth of water and food should be very easy to do. You should already pretty much have that already, at least the food part. Most people have 3 to 5 days just sitting in their cupboard. But in this situation, because you may or may not have electricity or access to natural gas or any type of heating source, you may want to have at least 3 days of food that would not require heating or cooking. So basically, you're ready to eat types of foods. And so that would be a priority. In terms of water, you may want to have at least a minimum of 3 gallons per person, one for drinking, one for hygiene, and another one for cleaning or cooking if you actually had to do that. But once again, it'd be best if you didn't have to do cooking for at least 3 days. The next one would be the backup means of shelter and heating. So even though you're in your primary, shelter, you're bugging in, as they say, or sheltering in place, you also need a extra means. I call it a backup means or a secondary means. If you're very prepared, you might even have a tertiary or even further means of shelter. And this could be simply as a pop-up tent or designating a shed or barn on your property to be a makeshift shelter to weather you through an emergency. So in terms of heat, this is going to also include a fire kit. That means to make a fire, having tinder and other types of fuel sources that can weather you and get you through, at least keep you warm and keep you from freezing for 3 days. The next item would be a radio with batteries. Preferably, it would have a crank option to help you keep the batteries charged. If not, keep a lot of extra alkaline batteries, good quality ones, with at least 3 to 5 years left remaining on the date. Most alkaline batteries can last 3 to 5 years pretty solidly on the shelf life. If you do have the money, though, lithium-based batteries would be even best. They have an average of a 10-year shelf life. Those would be highly recommended. But with the radio, though, you get a chance, an opportunity to be aware of your surroundings, hear the local news, and any emergency broadcast. And you should, at least have an AM, FM, and weather radio. And you can get all those bands in one radio. You don't need 3 separate radios. It would be even better if you had a shortwave capability on the radio, and or any other capabilities to listen to, public safety channels such as police, fire, and so forth. The next item would be a first aid kit. And the first aid is not only just your skills, but some of the materials that make up the kit. Excuse me. And so these first aid items could be from a basic kit that you get maybe at a Walgreens, a Walmart, CVS, or whatever's in your area, Costco's. It could be a Sam's Club. You can get these kits. I get the biggest and the most advanced one that you can afford. They can run anywhere from as little as $10 for the super basic Johnson & Johnson ones at Walmart, which are pretty much just Band-Aids and sorts. Or you can upgrade for $50, $60, even $100 and get much more comprehensive kits, which would be more advised. But a lot of times all you really need to do is get a basic kit and then just beef it up by going to the dollar store, like a Dollar Tree, and getting more bandages and ointments and ACE bandages, and then maybe jumping on Amazon, getting yourself a couple tourniquets, blood stoppers, things of that sort. Maybe some antibiotics as well. So those are some items. A hygiene kit. This can be done anywhere. Pretty much any basic store like a Walmart or dollar store has wet wipes, some soap, alcohol, based hand sanitizer that would dry on contact, and some towels and some basic means to put garbage in bags. So having garbage bags. So that's a hygiene kit. Basic tools would be another one. This one could be as simple as just having a multi-tool, a good blade. It could be even like a folding blade, a shovel, having a saw, axe, maybe a little pry bar, or even a larger pry bar, depending on your resources and if you're really having a likelihood of you having to bug out. Another item would be like tape. Gorilla tape would be my first choice, and then secondly, maybe an industrial grade duct tape made by Duck Brand. And then lastly, you could entertain the idea of hurricane tape if you really would need that strength. Those are very tough pieces of tape. Having various types of cording and rope and even chain with padlocks if that's necessary. And of course, some latex tubing or some type of way to siphon off either water or fuels if need be. The next item would be personal protection tools. These could be obviously pepper spray, maybe a self-defense knife, a firearm, maybe a bat, things that would be more practical. Maybe not so much things like some type of fighting tomahawk, unless you're trained into that. Also swords, unless you're a martial artist and you really are trained how to use a sword, or a machete for self-defense. You probably would just leave those kind of things to the side and use things that are more practical and things that you at least have more experience with. So those are options. And egress routes, egress plans, and then of course your egress pack, which we're going to call the 72-hour pack. So even though we're going to say go ahead and build this 72-hour kit of everything you typically would need and use, at least in the minimum form for your in-home kit, we also have our bug-out bag. So if we have to leave our shelter-in-place location, our home in most cases, then you have the means to do that and can at least survive for 3 days at a minimum. And so you're going to kind of have to do this on a small scale. Whatever you're getting for your in-home shelter, you're going to have to just kind of replicate that for your bag and do it in a small form. So instead of having, like for your hygiene kit, instead of having all these towels and bars of soap, you may just have a pack of wet wipes, a hand sanitizer for your hands, maybe a small camp towel, a very small bar of soap, and maybe some things of toilet paper and some garbage bags. And that could be pretty compact if you pack it correctly and put it in, and it's all in a good place in the bag. That's not going to be that heavy or bulky. The next item would be signaling and navigation tools for the home. And this includes lighting options. I would highly recommend it to probably choose a headlamp. If you get any light at all, a headlamp. And if you're looking for aerial lighting, a decent lantern. They have LED lanterns now that are very good. That could be an option. Signaling tools and navigation tools. That just depends on where you live and stuff. You know, flares could be an idea. You may have to have something that has the ability to get people's attention. It could be a large signal flag, a very bright, you know, spotlight. It could be even different radios, you know, with distress beacons. Just depends on where you live and what your situation is. The next item would be the 72-hour baseline to build on. So even though we're really talking about the first 3 days of an emergency to weather, just keep in mind, though, that this whole process is building on itself. So even though this is not really the step to get you to your first 3 days, this step is just to keep in the back of your mind. So once you get your first 3 days done, you can automatically turn around and say, okay, now I have the first 3 days. My new goal is to get a full week. So you need to add another 4 more days to get that week. And then when you get your week of everything you need to survive and to thrive in an emergency, you can double that. And you keep doubling it until you get the amount. It may be 2 months, it may be a year's worth, whatever is your comfort level. But basically, you just build like that. So, you know, 3 days goes to 1 week. 1 week goes to 2 weeks. And 2 weeks, you know, you start prepping for a month. And once you get in the hang of it, you start figuring out, okay, this is what I need for 1 day. And you keep multiplying that accordingly. So it's pretty easy. It's just a matter of just kind of, you know, keeping the course and keeping a steady movement towards your goal. The next item would be get other family members on board. It's amazing if you have a spouse or a loved one or even parents that if they're on the same, you know, same type of mindset as you, they can pull resources. They can actually be creative and think about all the problems that can be solved. And as we know, when more than one heads come together and people start thinking, you can problem solve a lot better when you have more people and different ideas and people looking at things at different angles to solve problems. So that's also very good. Number 12 would be expand your egress and your specific bug out bag locations and your bug out locations itself for your egress routes too, to be more, you know, more flexible. So you may not, in the future, you may not just have one bug out bag, just like you may not have just one bug out location. You may want to diversify where you store your bug out bags in different, you know, buildings, and also in have different locations in different directions depending on where the threat is coming from. And that includes routes to get there. You may not have just one road that you rely on to get to your bug out location. You may have at least 3 or 4 depending on the options available. The next item would be start growing a garden, sprouting seeds. Anybody can do this, even if it's a windowsill garden, herb garden, you know, and anybody can also sprout seeds. You can just get the seeds, you soak them for 24 hours, and then you drain them, you know, the water out of the container. And basically every 12 hours you rinse the seeds, and within 3 to 5 days you have beautiful sprouts of whatever you're sprouting typically, and you can use those to supplement your food, and they're very highly nutritious. So that's something to do. The next item would be develop skills such as sheltering, building, fire making, and how to pack your backpack, especially your bug out bag. These are skills that are perishable, and if you don't think about them and use them, just like going camping, if you haven't camped for a few years and you go camping, it's going to be like a little bit of a deja vu, and you'll have to kind of just remember how things were and how did you overcome certain obstacles. Because I'm getting close to my time allotment here, I'm going to finish on number 15. Set aside emergency cash, copies of important documents, and also consider having several caches of supplies at friends' and families' homes. It could just be a locked tote box that you keep in some friend in the back, you know, buried under a bunch of junk in their garage or shed or barn. And you have 2 or 3 of those spread out in different directions from your actual main home and your shelter-in-place location. That gives you other options in case your home was totally destroyed by a tornado or, God forbid, a fire. you have at least a small cache here, there, and there that you can go to and collect your belongings. So you won't have nothing at all. Thanks for watching.